Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar regarding the new online UIA insurance process. My name is Debbie Sasko, and I'm the AVP of Information Services, and I manage the UIA as well as IANA's other information service programs. Also joining me today are Stacy Fagan, one of our program managers, and our risk manager, Norris Barron. During today's webinar, if you would like to submit any questions, please feel free to submit them online. We will be allowing for a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar, and we'll try to answer as many of those questions as we can. For those that we're not able to get to, we will get back directly with the agent with the responses to those questions. The purpose of today's webinar is basically to advise that IANA is moving towards a paperless environment, and by October 2016, all insurance will be required to be submitted online. This means that all insurance agents that submit insurance on behalf of UIA motor carriers will need to be an authorized registered agent in the UIA system by this date. During the webinar, what I'm going to do is walk you through the registration process and then also show you the new online insurance process. We believe you'll find the new process streamlines the submission of insurance and is much more efficient. So the first thing that I'd like to do is to take you through the online registration process. You can register online to submit insurance by going to the UIA main webpage at www.uiia.org. Under the Insurance Agent drop-down, you'll go to the Insurance Agent login page. At this login page, under the login box here, you'll see a link that says First Time Agents. Click here to register to submit insurance online. You can click that, and that will bring up a online registration form that you will need to fill in the information that it asks for. It's going to ask for the individual agent's name as well as the agency's license number. Once you complete this information, you'll save it, and then you will get a PDF form that looks like this with all the information that you've entered online. Once you get this form, you will need to sign it at the bottom here and then return it to the UIA office either via email to uia@intermodal.org, or you can fax it to 253-322-9985, or our other fax number is 301-982-3414. Once we receive that information, what we will do, when you send it to us, you will need to include a copy of confirmation of the agency's license, that it's an active license, as well as the individual agent will need to include confirmation that they have an active license as well. UIA staff will confirm that on our end, and then once we do so, we will activate your online account. You'll receive an email with your account number and password that you'll use to log in to access the system. The very first time you provide information on behalf of a UIA motor carrier, you're going to need to have their SCAT code, which is their standard carrier alpha code, along with their insurance agent code. Every motor carrier that's in the UIA, when they come into the agreement, they receive an email that has an insurance agent code. That's the code that they manage to give to their insurance agents if they want them to submit insurance online for them. If the motor carrier is not aware of what that code is, they can always access it by logging into their UIA account and actually going to click on the link Update IA Details. When they click on that link, it will show the insurance agent code in red, and then they can provide that information to you. When you submit insurance online the first time, you'll take those two pieces of information, the motor carrier SCAT code and the insurance agent code, and then you will add that carrier to your list of insureds, and I'll show you how you do that. So if you're an agent, you're going to go to your login page. You'll log in with your account number, which will begin with IA, and then whatever password that you set up for the account. You'll log in, and then you'll have a list of insureds that you have linked to your account or are already linked to your account. If you want to add a new motor carrier, you'll simply click on Add New Motor Carrier. You'll enter that company's SCAT code and their insurance agent code and then click Add. And once you do, when you go back to this list of current insured screen, it will show that company as being added to your account. After that, you never need to associate the SCAC and insurance agent code again. That motor carrier will always be listed as a company for you to provide insurance information for. In addition, when agents register to submit insurance online, what we do is once we activate your account, there's a date in your record that shows when you became an authorized agent. We do have an annual validation process where we go out with a notice to agents that are registered to submit insurance online and ask them to provide validation that their license and the agency's license is still currently active. The notice will go out to you and it will give you 30 days to provide that information to us by fax or email. Once we get it, we'll verify it, and then your account will be fine. If we don't receive it in that 30-day period, then we move your account into an inactive status until we receive the necessary credentials showing that you still have an active license as well as the agency that you're representing. And again, that will be done based on the date you become an authorized agent in our system. So if you become an authorized agent tomorrow, then a year from that date you'll get a notice asking you to provide those credentials again. So now let's, once we're in the application here, you'll see on the screen, you'll kind of see the new look of the screen layout. We kind of have changed the coloring and some of the layout of the screen in order to make it flow from the newly designed website that we did back in May of 2015. So from the agent's perspective, what has changed in regards to what you see is how you will submit insurance on behalf of a carrier. We've tried to streamline that process, hopefully to make it a lot easier for you to be able to provide that information. So normally what you would do from this screen is you would click on Create New Accord Certificate to continue the process, but because we're in the test environment at the moment, I'm going to have to go a little bit differently. So if you bear with me just for a minute, I will bring up where you will be. Okay, so once you click on Create New Accord Certificate, the next screen you will see is this instructional screen that just tells you the steps on creating a certificate online. You'll hit Continue. From here you'll go to the equipment provider list. This is the list of equipment providers where your insured has checked off who they do business with. If there's anyone that you wish to add as additional insured, you'll need to make sure that company is checked on this list here so that it will be displayed as one of the companies you'll be listing as additional insured. Across the page you'll see the requirements of each provider. So for example, you'll have what they require for auto, general, cargo, and trailer interchange, and if they require any workers' comp or employer's liability status. And the last column tells you what the motor carrier's current status is with that provider. And it may show no because they may not have checked that company as a company they do business with. It may show pending because they have checked the company but there's still information needed for them. And it doesn't necessarily mean it might not be insurance information that's needed. So you scroll down the bottom once you know that you have everyone checked that you're going to need, and you hit Save and Continue. That's going to take you to the policy selection screen. From here you're going to be able to submit either a primary or excess policy or an EP specific policy. We'll come back to the EP specific policy, so for right now we're going to do a primary and excess. You select the policies that you're going to be providing. So for this purposes of this demo, we're going to do an auto, general, cargo, and trailer. We do Continue, and this is where the process changes. Right now, you're currently, when you enter insurance in our system, those that are registered to submit online, there's a screen for each policy. So for each policy, you have a different screen that you have to go to submit insurance information. What we've done is we've duplicated the Accord 22 certificate online, so that now what you'll be doing is actually just filling out the Accord certificate online. So everything will be done on this page versus having to go to individual screens for each policy. The producer section and the insured section on the certificate is taken from our system. The producer section will be taken how you registered. So it'll show the information you provided when you registered to become an online insurance agent. If this information is not correct, you will need to go back to your home page and click on Update Account Information to change to the correct information. So say, for example, your address had changed. You'd change that information before you would submit a certificate of insurance. Or you can go back and change it once you see it's not up to date. It's very important that you always make sure that you provide us with the up-to-date contact information for your company. as an agent, as an authorized agent, you want to make sure that we know your correct email address and fax number or phone number. You'll see the insured section that allows you to enter insurance information. It'll do a drop down based on the best key rating guide, where you can select based on the first few characters that you've keyed in. It'll allow you to make a selection from here as to the insurance company that you're providing the information for the insured on. It also gives you a copy from in-place policy function, which you currently have now in our system if you're providing information online. This will allow you to click on this, and it will give you the option to select all policies, meaning you want to copy all the policies that are in place for the policies you've selected. Or you can select individual policies. If you only wanted to copy the auto but you didn't want to copy the rest of them, you could do that. So for the purposes of this demo, we're going to select them all. We're going to hit done, and then what the system will do, it will pre-populate everything from the current policies that are in place, with the exception of the effective date and the expiration date. You will always need to key those fields, even when you use the copy from in place. So let's go ahead and put some dates in here so that we can move through the process. So if you just bear with me for a minute while I put these dates in, and then we can move forward. And we'll go down and put the date in for the trailer interchange. Okay. So once you've finished all the information, you can also, even though you use the copy from in place feature, if there's something you need to change, like a policy number or anything, you can go up and you can change that information. Anything that needs to be modified at this point, you have the ability to do. So then you'll scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see under the description of operations we have two boxes now. One is for the trucker's endorsement. So automatically, if you're providing an auto policy, this box is going to be checked, because in regards to the base agreement, the auto liability policy requires that the trucker's endorsement, which is the UII-1 or CA-2317 or an equivalent form, be provided for the auto liability policy. If you don't check that box, or if that box is not checked, or if you go back up to the auto, we put some validations on the screen, so hopefully it will catch some of the issues before you submit the cert. For example, under the UIIA, there's specific types of autos that we require. So if you are an agent and you come on and you do scheduled but you don't provide hired, you're going to get a message saying you should provide hired as well. Same thing if you provide all own and you don't provide hired, you're going to get just a little issue message to let you know that there's an issue before you submit the cert. So if we scroll back down, for the additional insureds, you have the ability to issue blanket additional insured, where you can say yes, and then it'll indicate what policies is the blanket on. You would tell them what policy it's on, and then you can the blanket wording will be shown, and then you just select that. Right now, because I used the copy from in place feature, it's copied over the individual insured, so it's not going to accept a blanket, because you can either have a blanket or individual insureds listed. You can't have both, because if you have a blanket, you're actually naming anyone that they're under a signed contract to do business with. So with this part, we're going to do individual insured. So I'm going to check this box saying that the companies listed below here are additionally insured on the policies listed. You have the ability to check the whole row if you want, or just check specific providers. If you don't want them all checked, you can take them off. But basically, this list here is taken off of the first list of equipment providers that you check to make sure that everyone is there that your insured does business with, and that you're going to list as an additional insured. At this point, the system will then show them as an additional insured on the appropriate policies. So as you see, the box is grayed for CMA under the GL additional insured, because CMA doesn't require that. It's only going to check them in the box that they require to be additionally insured on. Right now, none of our equipment providers require to be named on cargo. So that's why you don't see any check marks there. Back up under the description of operations, you also see there's a link to the Accord 101 form. If there's additional information that you need to enter on the certificate, you can click that box, and what it will do, it'll bring up a box like this where you can type in whatever information it is that you need to type. Sometimes agents will provide excess policy information there, or if there's a refrigerated trailer, they may provide it there. Any type of notation that you need to provide, you have the option to click the Accord 101 to provide that. So once you're sure that the information that you've submitted is what is correct, you have the options at the bottom to do save and continue, which if you do that, it's going to take you to the smart checklist in our system, which shows you if there's any issues with the insurance that you've submitted. So if we go down here, what we've done is we've shortened the smart checklist. Right now on the checklist, if there's anything wrong with the limit or anything with any of the base policies that are required, such as auto liability or general liability, it lists every single provider that's associated with. So because these are base requirements, it is associated with all the providers. So what we are going to do is, instead of listing all of them, we're going to just say this is an issue related to all UIA equipment providers. So that will shorten that list. What we will do is, if it's an individual requirement of a provider, such as the limit for cargo, there are certain providers that require a certain limit. Some require 100, some require 50,000. So if the limit that is provided is not correct, then we will show the providers that that's associated with. In this particular case, the cargo, I must have entered an expired date, so it's saying the cargo is expired, and then it lists the providers that it's going to impact, which will be all of them that are selected. If you scroll down over the trailer interchange, you'll see that the limit I have is 30,000 and my deductible is 5,000, and the issue says the deductible for this policy can be no greater than 100,000 for the following EPs, and then it lists the EP. So at this point, I have the option to go ahead and submit the certificate, even though I know there's something wrong with it, or I can go back to the Accord form and fix the errors that I have. So the first error I had was the cargo policy, the expiration date on the cargo policy. So if I look at that, I need to change that to 2017. And if I wanted to fix the trailer interchange for Yang Ming, maybe I entered the wrong deductible. If the policy actually had a $1,000 deductible instead of a $5,000, then I could go ahead and fix that here. Submit the certificate again, do a save and continue, and then you'll see that at this point it now comes back and tells me, oh, well, I fixed the expiration date for the cargo, but my limit's too low for these providers. So I can go back again. So you can keep going back and forth on the cert until you get it right, versus how you have to do now. Once you make a mistake now in our system, you can't fix it until you've save the certificate, and then you have to bring it back up, or if you've submitted the certificate, then you have to enter a whole new certificate. The other option that it gives you to do now is, say for example, I've submitted an auto, general, cargo, and trailer, but I said, oh, I forgot I needed to also submit workers' comp. In the current system, you would have to, again, enter a new certificate for the workers' comp, or save the certificate and then go back in and add the workers' comp. What this will allow you to do is it has an option to go back to the policy selection screen. From here, you can just select workers' comp, hit continue, and it will save all the information that you previously entered on the certificate, and it will just allow you to go down and add the workers' comp information. So we'll put the policy information in for the workers' comp. And the limits, and now let's save the certificate, and hopefully we'll be good to go. And as you can see now, the smart checklist is showing that there's no issue. So at this point I want to submit the certificate, It's going to come up with a pop box like it always does now, asking you to agree to the terms of the cancellation clause in the agreement. You click OK, and at this point it would then submit the certificate to the account and apply it. If there was issues with the account, even though you had the option to go back and fix it, say you decided not to fix it, then you would have the ability to, it would submit it, and then it would stay in a pending status until midnight. If there was no new information submitted by midnight, then that particular cert would go into place on your insured's account, and then whatever issues there would be would take place at that point. The other feature that we've added, I had indicated, was the EP specific policy. So in order to do an EP specific policy, you're going to follow the same type of guidelines that we just did, except when you get to the policy selection screen, you're going to select, instead of primary excess, you're going to select an EP specific. And then you would select whatever policies that you were providing. And EP specific is a policy that is being provided for a specific equipment provider due to the fact that maybe a provider may require lower limits or higher limits, or their deductible may be lower than what the carrier carries on a primary basis for everyone else. Good example would be, we have several providers that require a $1,000 trailer interchange deductible, but the motor carrier may carry a $5,000 deductible on its policy when it's doing business with everybody. So the agent may elect to enter or submit a certificate showing a lower deductible just for those lines that the motor carrier is doing business with. If they do, then they're going to submit this EP specific policy, click continue, and then in the current system you would have to enter a EP specific for each provider. So if you were entering it for 3 providers, you'd have to enter 3 EP specific policies. What we've done now is given the agent the ability to go down and select at the bottom of the screen. You'll see when an EP specific policy is selected, you have boxes to the left of the equipment provider's name. So you have the ability to select that you're only providing this policy on behalf of these providers. And then you would go back, you would enter your policy information, or if you had EP specifics already in place, you could do the copy from in place and then enter that information, and then select the policies. If they required additional insured coverage, you would select that information as well, and then you would submit the certificate and do save and continue and then submit, and it would go through the same process. The big savings here is that it allows you to do this for multiple EPs on the one certificate versus having to submit an additional one certificate for each provider. So that is a big plus in, I'm sure, agents and both UI staff ability. Another item we can show you is to terminate a policy. You would go and you'll see here that there's numbers after some of these types of certificates. That's telling the agent you currently have 1 saved certificate, so you know that if you have a saved certificate, you need to go in there and either submit it or you need to delete it if you've submitted something later dated. It shows you how many active certificates you have on file. It would show pending certificates. If you had any certificates with a pending effective date, it's going to show the number here, how many you have. And then if you have any certificates that have problems that have been submitted, it'll show you how many here. If you wanted to print the certificate, you'd simply click on the certificate number. It's going to bring up the Accord form. You have the ability to save that in a PDF file, or you can view the smart checklist, or it will allow you to save the PDF to your own internal system. If you need to terminate a policy, you'll basically go to active certificates. It'll bring up the active cert that's on file, and it'll give you a button next to each of the policies that allows you to terminate it. So you click on the terminate button. It'll bring that certificate back up, and then what you would do is you'd enter the termination date and the reason for termination, say it's for non-payment or whatever it may be, and then you click terminate policy. It would then, you can enter future terminations as well as the current terminations. And then a reinstatement would be the same way. You would go to the current certificate, the active certificates on file. Instead of this button saying terminate, it would say reinstate. If the policy is terminated, this button flips to say reinstate it. You'd click on the reinstate button, enter the reinstatement date and the reason for the reinstatement, and then click reinstate, and then the policy would be reinstated. So that's basically the new process for the Accord certificate. We think that this will be a much more efficient process since everything's being done on the one certificate and it's actually being done on the Accord certificate form for everyone. The one thing that I also would like to show agents, though, is for motor carriers. Let me log out of this here and go to the motor carrier screen. For motor carriers, we've done the same thing. They have the look and feel of the new application layout screens. But we've also added a functionality for them that we believe will be helpful for agents as well. And what that is under the Update EP list. This is the same list that you see as an agent where the motor carrier has selected the companies they do business with, or you as an agent have added companies that you know the company does business with. So what we've given the motor carrier the ability to do is to print this form in a PDF file so that they can email it. It allows them to email it to you as their agent. So it shows you an up-to-date current list for that particular motor carrier. And that's often information that you need as an agent when you're submitting insurance online, or even currently now you need to know who they're going to do business with so you know who to list as an additional insured on their policies. So that's a new feature that we've added for motor carriers, and we think that it will be something that will be useful to them and you as an agent as well. Before we take a few questions, I also wanted to let everyone know that we are doing some security protocol upgrades in our system as of February 17th. And as of that time, all users that are accessing the UI application will need to be using the most current version of the internet browser that they're doing. So if you're on Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, whatever browser you're using, you need to make sure you're using the most current version of that. And if you're not sure if you're on the current version, oftentimes you can look under the Help button on your internet browser to see what version you're on. And then we also have instructions under our main web page that allows you to download the current versions of each of those browsers. So if you have any questions or anything in regards to how to do that, you can always go out to our UI web page under important notices. There's a link there, and there's also a link, the same link is available under frequently requested information. That's about it in regards to the application enhancements. Stacy, do we have any questions from any of the agents?
We do have a few questions. First question, can we have a shared user account or login, as we have multiple people that will go in and out at any particular time to update one or more customers?
The online process is on the premise that each individual agent would have its own login. So if you have multiple agents within your organization, each of those agents that are authorized to submit insurance should register to be a authorized user in the UIIA.
On the actual certificate that's going to be filled out online, does the signature box remain blank?
The signature box will remain blank as online. However, if the certificate is reproduced, what it's going to do is on the insurance agent registration form that you complete, there's an account number that's assigned to your agency. That account number, along with your signature on the authorized registration form, will be what is tied to that actual certificate. So if it's reproduced, it's going to show your account number, and that account number will be used as your electronic signature because it'll be tied back to the registration form that you physically signed and sent to our office.
Okay. Will we still need to submit copies of any endorsements?
The only time you will need to submit a copy of an endorsement is on the Accord 101 form. If you use the Accord 101 form when you're submitting insurance to our office, and you reference like some type of endorsement on that form, you would then have to send that information to our office so that we had a copy of it on file, so we can make sure that nothing in that is conflicting with the terms of the agreement.
Okay, got another one. If one agent creates a certificate and is on vacation, is another authorized user able to access the account with their own ID?
They would be able to access the account if they had linked that motor carrier to their own individual account. So if that motor carrier is with your agency and you have two agents that are providing insurance information for them, or you in an emergency, say another agent needed to submit insurance, they would need to either go online under that agent's login information, or they could tie that insured to their own account and then submit the insurance on their behalf.
Okay, it says our office works with one particular insurance carrier where they issue certificates and not our agency. In this case, is it the insurance carrier that would need to register to submit insurance online?
That's correct. If the agency is not the party that's the authorized individual to submit the insurance certificates, but the insurance carrier is, then the insurance carrier would need to be the one to register to submit insurance online to our office.
Okay, last question came in. If a prior representative set up the certificate of insurance online, and a new insurance agent has taken over the account, could the new insurance use the copy in place policies?
The new agent would need to log in and link that account by using the motor carrier SCAT code and the insurance agent code. And then if they came online, whatever policies were in place, they would be able to use the copy from in place functionality, as long as it was an active policy.
Okay, last question just came in. I have completed the Accord 22 form online with the equipment providers. Now the insured is adding some new equipment providers midterm. How would I update that online?
You would have to, in that case, you would have to go online and submit a new Accord certificate of insurance. Once a certificate is submitted, it cannot be updated. In that case, you would go online, whatever policies those providers would be required to be listed additionally insured on, you would need to submit those policies on the new Accord form and then do a submit certificate with that information in order to add them. The only time a policy certificate could be edited is if you just enter a cert and you save it for some reason. Say, for example, you entered the information and you weren't sure of the policy number, so you wanted to save the information and then come back to it. You can leave a save certificate in a save status for 24 hours before you get a notice from us telling you that you have a save certificate out there. The other option, way that a cert could be modified is if you have a pending policy on the certificate. So if, say, for example, the policies renew February 1st and you're submitting them today, they'll go into a pending status. So if tomorrow you've said, oh, I needed to add another equipment provider, you would be able to go under the pending certificate functionality, bring that certificate up, and there's a edit functionality on that cert because the effective date is not in force yet. Those are the only times you can edit a submitted certificate. Other than that, it's going to require that you enter a new certificate. But you will be able to do the online certificate where everything has been being done on the one page versus on individual pages that you're doing now if you're providing information online to us. And I mean, the basic reason for us moving in this direction, of course, is that everybody's moving to a paperless environment, but it is much more efficient. I mean, we deal with thousands and thousands of insurance agents, and we have many agents now that actually do the process online, which it moves very smoothly. But we wanted to make that process more efficient because now we're going to be moving everyone to an online version. So we think this one, doing the Accord online is the right direction to move for agents, and we hope that you feel that way. We certainly hope that you found today's webinar informative and that the new online process will help streamline your company submitting information to the UIIA. Again, the tentative time frame for the release of the new process will be the first part of April. We'll be sending out a notice to agents that are registered in our system around the first part of March, letting you know the actual date in April that it will be implemented. And then finally, moving forward by October 2016, which gives you between now and October to get yourself registered as an online user, and then so that you're ready in October that you can begin submitting insurance online to us versus paper or email information. Thanks again, and have a good day.